Hello everyone, I'm very happy today because not only do I have a 4K streaming camera, I got a new microphone, and I would like some feedback from you guys to tell me if the quality is better or not. Now, I know most of you aren't really interested in this particular news, simply because a lot of you don't watch soccer, and it's also something from Romania. But I do think that this is very interesting because for once in my lifetime, I noticed that the race grifters have lost, and this pleases me to no avail. And I want to give you a model on how normal people should behave in order to tell these grifters no. And they're not used to being told no, which is why there's now a salt of tears flowing within the Romanian press. So let me tell you what has transpired first. In case you haven't seen any of the previous videos, there was a football match in which the Turkish team from Istanbul was losing badly, 5-0. That is beyond horrible in the world of professional soccer. And one of the players from the bench was behaving in an unacceptable manner according to the rules. He was shouting, screaming, being aggressive, something that is banned by the rules. And one of the referees, noticing that behavior, gave him a red card and told the security to escort him out. Now, when the security asked, "Which person are you talking about?" he said, "The black dude over there," and pointed. Now, in Romania, when you say black, the Romanian word for it is negru. It's not an offensive word, it's not a slur, and it's not a word that you only apply to people. It is the color black. Now, when the person from the bench heard this, being part of a team that's losing 5-0 and being on the bench, sitting in the cold, he realized that, well, now is the opportunity to grift. Now is the moment to make a name for myself by taking advantage of the political climate that most of the journalists in the football industry are doing. And if I pretend to be a victim, all of a sudden I'm going to be famous. And for an athlete, being famous, that brings you a lot of stuff. It brings you deals, it puts your face on various brands. Even if you're a bad player, just getting your name out there in the press is a good thing. So the reason that I think he was grifting and he wasn't being serious is that at first, he walks up to the referee and assumed that the referee called him the N-word. And when the referee explained, no, this has nothing to do with the N-word, it's just like how Romanians talk. I was speaking in Romanian. Then he immediately changed and went like, okay, well, you didn't call me the N-word. However, why did you have to call me black? And this was to do with racismus, right? So now the teams refused to play. They suspended the match. After deliberations, they went back and tried to convince the Turkish team to come out. And they were like, no, we're not going to continue playing because we don't want to play with racists and meh. Even though it was 5-0. I mean, there was nothing they could do at that time. But, you know, like, whatever. So now you have, like, the Turkish politicians demanding that this referee life is ruined. UEFA does an investigation. All of the Romanian journalists and the press from Romania decided to side against this referee. All of a sudden, I've been informed that the color black is racist. This is from the Romanian press. And also from the Romanian Council Against Discrimination. So they just made up this rule overnight. Because up till now, you look in the press, the place where people are supposed to take wisdom from, and they write articles like Obama, the first black president. Or the vice president of the United States, the first woman of color. It is not offensive, okay? It is not racist. And I am a person that I'm on the center. I fully agree that racism is a bad thing. But because it is a bad thing, we shouldn't water it down with false accusations. We shouldn't just automatically create new standards and new rules overnight that are capable of destroying the livelihood of a person. Because this is what the people from Turkey were asking. Like, they were flat out asking, like, no, this referee needs to be fired and completely scratched for life, like, removed from history. So something happened. Something has transpired. Apparently, not the journalists, mind you, but the people on the internet, they decided that this is ridiculous, and a lot of people started doing the hashtag Jesus Pascoltescu. It's like, I'm also that referee. I am that guy. I don't think that this is racist. I think that you guys are grifting. I fully support this referee. And people were making memes. People were making all of the funny jokes online. And they were basically just completely rejecting the journalist narrative. They also did something else that's interesting. They looked into the footage and they found out that the Turkish team, literally in the same match, said that, oh, these are Romanians. Oh, well, in Turkey we call them gypsies. Which is not very nice. Also racismus. And I'll explain why in a later bit. But just to explain why is it okay to call a Romanian a gypsy, but it's not okay to call an African American a black person? Why is one okay and one isn't? The double standards. I know. If there weren't double standards, there would be no standards. And now because UEFA is investigating that, and there's a little bit of a problem, you have the black player phoning the referee and having a conversation in order to try to smooth things over, because no one is interested now into this carrying on. It was interesting carrying it on when the Romanian referee was on trial. But now that it's like, oh, the Turkish team called Romanians gypsies, I don't know. I mean, let's just forget about it. Like, forget about it. Just forget about it. So now everything is cool, I guess. Except for the journalists. The journalists are incredibly livid over the fact that these two people made up and now there's no more issues. So they're writing articles saying that Romania and its profound racismus. Like, if I were an alien and reading this, I would think that we're lynching people or something, right? Profound. I mean, it's profound. You know, it's like in Germany or something. Like, we're already sending minorities to Poland in the trains based on how these journalists are treating this situation. And this is like funny. It's like, every now and then, Romania has an opportunity to see its image in the mirror and doesn't like what it sees. And instead of taking advantage of this opportunity to understand its own problem and nip it in the bud, Romania prefers to break the mirror and completely forget about its own reflection. This is happening right now within UEFA, where a referee has been accused of racismus. And this was an excellent opportunity to analyze if there isn't a profound racismus in Romania that needs to be corrected. However, the internet and the Romanian press filled with the wrong position of trying to support this referee in order to demonstrate without exception that the overwhelming amount of people do not understand the gravity of racism. So I find it hilarious that this guy is like, oh, this was an excellent opportunity to investigate and have a conversation. And because the conversation literally took place and people told the talking heads in the media to F off, so the conversation didn't go his way, he's now upset. Oh, it's like the conversation never happened. It's like, oh, these simpletons, they do not understand the wisdom. It's like, no, listen, you do not understand the wisdom, journalist. You are the problem. Because, yes, racismus is a bad thing. But this is not it. All right? And then he goes on and talks about the Holocaust. I'm not kidding. Like, this is how unhinged the Romanian press is. It's like, the Holocaust wouldn't have happened if the culture didn't exist. This is written in the article. It's written. I mean, it's very difficult for me to find myself without words, but now it is. It's happening. So, this guy is actually comparing a referee saying the black dude over there with the beginning of a new Holocaust. Like, he legitimately thinks, I suppose, that if things are allowed to go this route, if people can just use words willy-nilly, we're going to go to the Holocaust in the future, 2.0. Is this person for real? The answer is yes. He works for the press. And then, he goes around and says that, okay, well, calling someone by their race, like calling someone black, is racist. And he gives example of this picture that a lot of people were sharing on the internet, asking, like, how would you identify the white kid in the image without using the race? So the guy says, well, first of all, by its name, if you happen to know it. Well, obviously, it's implied that the referee didn't know the name of the black guy, so we do not name him by the name. But then he goes like, the boy with a white rubber band tied to his pants. Are you fucking serious? Do people even communicate this way? Like, how much education do you need in order to say something so dumb? It's not even like scratching yourself like this. I basically, like, I would grow old and die if you were to actually have like this type of conversation. When you need to identify someone really fast, like in a split of a second, do you actually do this? Because I'm willing to bet this guy doesn't do it. Because according to him, when CNN says the word black and identifies people by that, that's racist. You can't say it. Says who? Not to mention, like, we live in a time where colorblind racism is a thing. So this journalist is a colorblind racist. Why am I being moralized by a racist? And then he goes on to tell me about the struggles that black people have to endure, which I'm pretty sure they're true. But at the same time, I didn't cause those suffering. Romanians haven't caused those sufferings. I generally don't understand. So if my family suffered in the past under Russian communism, does that mean now that the Russians cannot say that Romanian over there? This is ridiculous. Who makes these rules? Come on. Even this guy himself probably doesn't understand how ridiculous he is. And he needs to get a 10 out of 10 at the Mental Gymnastic Olympics. Because like this is just like a creationist that already arrived to the conclusion that the Earth is 6,000 years old. And now he's just like looking for evidence that fits the narrative. It's not like actually doing the opposite, like finding evidence and then reaching a conclusion. No, like the conclusion is already made, okay? The referee is a racist. Oh my god. And then it's like he actually talks about saying that Barack Obama was the first black president. It's like, no, this is a good thing because it refers to a positive nature. So you're only allowed to say black in a positive thing. Look, the N-word, okay? The N-word is always bad. Alright, don't use it. Simple rule, people can understand it. Identifying people, why is it wrong to identify people by their color of the skin but not the eye color? Again, like, who makes these rules? And why do we need to apply them? Because apparently, like, the person that's the grievance party here, the person that's offended, is not offended anymore. Like, he actually called the referee and he's fine with it. But no, it's okay, because now we have journalists that are going to continue the offense on his behalf. Even after, like, the guy's conceding. He's like, okay, you know what, fine. Like, we were in the wrong. Let's shake hands and be done with it. But no, here comes Mihail Alexandru descending from his white tower on his white horse in order to carry on the struggle and the battle of this poor soccer player that doesn't know his interests like this journalist does. Honestly, like, to me, it seems that this journalist doesn't really care about people of color. He just uses them as a resource in order to get clicks on his website and to spark outrage, even though he is willing to ruin the professional career of another person that did no wrong. Okay, like there is no wrong. The guy forgave him. It's like there is no more grievance to be had. And then he goes on and says that, no, calling Romanians gypsies is fine, and only people who get offended by this, they're the real racists. I mean, let's analyze this from a leftist perspective. Let me put it in a way that a leftist can understand. It's like misgendering someone. No one is saying that there's anything wrong with being like with women, but if someone identifies as a man, then misgendering them is not okay. Right? So this is a way that they can understand why it's bad. It's like calling a British person a Muslim. Like the people who do this, they're not doing this because they believe that the Muslims in Britain have a very vibrant and different culture. No, it's like usually a person that's mocking the policies of the United Kingdom to allow the refugees in. It implies a little bit of malice. You know, and it's the same thing, because I have yet to see any connotation where a person calls a Romanian a gypsy without having some sort of malice and some sort of stereotype coming with that connotation. Mr. Journalist, which is an expert on racism, but seems to just leave this part out. This is just like, just forget this little thing. But let's assume that he is right. You know, there's nothing wrong with a Romanian being called a gypsy, even though he never identifies as one, he never claims to be one, and he is not one. Why is it then okay to call someone a gypsy and nominate them by that, but it's not okay to call someone black and nominate them by that? In a non-hurtful manner, by the way, like in a non-offensive manner, just like designating the objective reality that encompasses the color of the skin of that person. And, you know, it's just like bizarre. These are rules completely made up by the journalists, and they do not help end racism, because that's not the point. The point is to provide a little bit of a crate for this journalist to get on top and lecture his morality to the rest of the plebeians. That is the point, is to empower this person, right? He wants to be the savior of soccer players who obviously are incapable of speaking out for themselves because they shook hands with the referee and they're like, you know what, fine, there's no grievance here. And a lot of people in the press are livid about it because these two people made up. They're upset. They're like, and editorials are just pouring, and it's like, how dare these people make up? Yeah, unfortunate, you know, and how dare the plebeians not think the correct way. Listen, buddy, all right? You're in Eastern Europe. You are one of the lucky ones to work at Hot News. That's what the website is called, Hot News. Hot News is an essential business. We're in a pandemic right now, okay? People are having difficulties putting food on the table. They have important shit to worry about. You seem to have a lot of privilege by not only being at Hot News, but probably making somewhere above minimum wage. So when people have actual issues in their life, when people have the hardship of reality knocking at their door, they really don't have the time to worry about, oh yeah, well, this guy on this bench was called by a referee and then they made up, but like we still need to check ourselves, and like, go fuck yourself. You know, you need to look in the mirror. You need to see your reflection in the mirror before you talk about an entire nation of people to look in the mirror. I hope this video was entertaining. I hope you guys liked the new streaming setup. And if you enjoyed, let me know what you think in the comment section. I do find this article to be entertaining, and I do think that this is a win. For the first time ever, I see that the grifters have been like, and they're not happy about it. They're not happy about that, because even on these progressive websites, like the most progressive Romanian websites, I saw people still siding with the referee, showing that there is common sense left in my country. When this is happening in the West, they just like nod their heads at whatever the journalists are saying. If the journalist says something, they're like, even if it makes no sense. The air conditioning is sexist. It's like the marionette people, you know, like a marionette. The journalists have the strings and they just bob the one with the head and they go like, Let me know what you think in the comment section. See you guys there.